I've got a big problem, and I need your guys' help. I've discovered there is a major hole in my life that I did not know was there until I got a couple of days of downtime. I'm sitting there on the Thanksgiving holiday week in the Rover, and I'm like, you know what I want to do? I want to watch some TV. Maybe even I want to watch some Home Alone movie.
Ooh, Home Alone.
Yeah,
Good
it's the
choice.
holidays, Wes.
Cozy up, watch some Home Alone.
Then I remembered that my whole Rover runs off of a MiFi connection.
Ooh.
And all of a sudden, I went from not caring about TV at all to I got to have a way that I can like come down to the studio, sync media to some kind of device, go back to the Rover and play offline, still with some streaming options if I want them.
Right.
And so here's the solution I don't want to use because this is what seems like the easy solution. Take an iPad with the Plex app.
Yep.
Come down here to the studio, sync to the Plex server to the iPad, bring the iPad back to the Rover, and watch like Plex on the iPad offline. But that's not very Linuxy.
Nope.
And there's got to be a way to do it like, and so I'm curious what could be like a decent, what are people's offline media solution where you have maybe like a collection of media somewhere.
I have a quick question for you, Chris.
Yeah.
How do you have a defined way you'd like to be watching it in the Rover? I mean, do you have a TV? Do you have a desktop?
No, I don't. I prefer not to be on, definitely not on a desktop.
Or do you have a mobile device?
A laptop with a decent sized screen would be okay, or a tablet would be okay. Basically something that's decent enough to watch a TV on, but it doesn't have to be that big. So I thought maybe I could do like an MB server with maybe like a tablet app,
right,
or on a laptop, or maybe like I said, Plex on a tablet. Could be an Android tablet too, but I hate Android tablets.
Sure.
Or rsync. I could just rsync some files over from time to time and use VLC.
Right.
But I would really like something that has like played status and resume support for where I left off, and maybe transcoding support for different devices.
That would be nice.
So I don't really know what the solution is here, because the ideal thing would be like, okay, it's a Friday and I'm here at the studio. I'll sync up a couple of shows and then I'll go home for the weekend and I watch all my stuff, and then I come back on Monday for Coda Radio and I sync what I watched, take some stuff off, put some stuff on. It would be really nice. Wimpy, do you have an idea? Because I see you said I know you know what it is. Tell me, Wimpy.
Yeah. Okay. So what we have here, what we have in the house here, is a server running Open Media Vault with Plex installed on that. So all of the media is on there. So consequently, anyone in the house using any device can watch the film when our shortwave radio is down to stream it to your device with transcoding working and all the rest of it. So if you had a small Plex server, or you could do it with MB as well, I suppose. Does MB do transcoding for devices?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Then you could use that as well, and you host it in the RV.
And then and then just sort of over time trickle content down to it.
Add content to the server as and when you get the opportunity. So the way that we add content to this is we buy Blu-ray discs, and I have a machine that I rip the films off the Blu-ray into the media library.
Yeah, that's actually a pretty good solution.
I have seen, just in that same vein, if you're an MB supporter, they have a folder sync.
Yeah.
And so you can transcode out. You can target a specific device even. And so you might be able to do that to an external hard drive and bring it in if you hadn't had one there. Maybe too much work. I'm not sure.
It wouldn't have probably wouldn't have the watch status.
I wonder about that.
But
yeah, that would be
could
the
go
thing.
basically, I would use MB to organize all the files and then use its folder sync plugin
right
to manage it.
I have not tried that. But
Popey, you said you had an idea.
Yeah, I just posted a link in IRC. It's a device which is a mobile wireless access point that has a USB port and an SD card slot, and it's got a battery. So it's designed to be a portable media server. So you just stick all your media on a USB drive, plug it into that thing, and then you can go anywhere. Carry this thing with you, and it creates a wireless access point. You connect to it, connect multiple devices to it, and just stream media straight off it to any device.
Oh, wow.
Nice.
So basically it probably uses what, DLNA to connect to it? So anything that supports DLNA playback can stream off of it?
I'm not sure what protocol it uses, but the good news is it is flashable, so you can actually stick anything. I think you can put like Linux or OpenWRT or some other random stuff on it as well. You can hack it, but the fact that it's got a battery in it means you can go out and about and still carry on listening to content off of it, or like watching media off of it when the power goes out.
Wow. I mean, this is, so they even have a newer version How can this
Yeah,
thing
I've
be?
got the old one.
It's like $30 US.
That seems entirely too reasonable.
Yeah, it does.
I mean, there's no storage in it, so you've got to provide
Put
your
an
own
SD card in there,
storage.
right? But you could
Right,
have an
it's
SD card of
basically
TV
just a battery
shows, an
and a
SD card
server.
of movies.
And who doesn't have
Yeah.
one laying around anyway?
Interesting. That is actually pretty neat. I'm going to put a link to that in the show notes. That's a pretty neat idea. I wonder though if you know what? To me, what I really would like is something that is kind of what Wimpy was saying, where I just have a rig in the rover that is receiving files through maybe like Syncthing or something. Right?
Yeah, that's my idea. Use Syncthing.
Yeah, okay, but then here's the problem, though. First of all, it requires connectivity in the rover all the time, and the second thing is I'm still not syncing my watch data. So do I just give up on that, I guess?
Well, you could delete it or something. You don't necessarily have to, I don't know. You could find some other way. Put it in a separate folder. Just use the file system
Yeah.
to deal with watch
Doesn't need
status.
connection all the time, though, does it? It only needs connection periodically, in order to
Right.
synchronize things.
Yeah.
Like, whenever you pull up outside McDonald's, get it to synchronize over their Wi-Fi or whatever.
I mean,
the
you could
free
even set it up in
Wi-Fi.
such a way that you had to be at home, so it had to only sync when you were local at the studio. Or you
Right.
could do it like when you set up a VPN connection, so it could be explicit. So it's only syncing when you're on a connection that you think has enough bandwidth.
What feels nice,
not too
though, I
expensive.
mean, what I was kind of fantasizing, the reason why the iPad or Android tablet running Plex is so fancy to me is because I just bring it with me one day and I just hit a button, it just sucks down all the new stuff,
Right.
and then I walk away and it's got all the new stuff, and no connection required at the rover at all.
I have a wild idea.
What?
What if you use something like ZFS or ButterFS snapshots
Yeah.
and take snapshots of your MB installation?
Oh, hold on, Wes.
Send that right to an external or something and connect it up and run MB from that drive and then have it rescan your library and then it would only show you things that you had kept.
That is interesting.
I don't know. It's overly complicated. You'd have to set a lot of stuff up.
I love it, though. I love
But-
it. I love it.
Because I know it uses a SQLite database to store a lot of configuration and probably the watch status too. I don't know.
I think there's a lot that appeals me to Popey's old device and also to Wimpy's solution.
Yes.
The one thing I like about something simple is, I guess I'm trying to punt for as long as possible on setting up a server in the rover. At least
I see.
I'd like to get through the end of winter. I don't know, but we'll see. Maybe a NUC and a little external hard drive. It's just, I don't know. It's
a lot to set up.
Yeah, it is, and I've already set up 2 in 2 other places, and I have a third on DigitalOcean right now.
Right.
So it's like, do I really want a fourth?
And how much infrastructure do you want to be responsible for?
Yeah, I just I'm getting tired of it. I want something simple.
Move to a smaller house, but with more devices.
Because basically I don't watch media that often anymore. But
Right.
yeah, it was, and then of course I'm thinking to myself, where is my dang Purism laptop? Because I could just choose that right now. I could just, it has a 1080p display. I could watch some 1080p
Any
movies on
updates
that.
there?
I got nothing. Yeah, I agree. I might just do VLC. And an NFS mount over the net. I don't know. I could do that too. And to be honest, both MB and Plex have pretty good solutions here, so I might just watch to see what they do too.
Right.
I'm that MB sync folder sync thing might be a nice go-between in the meantime.
Right. Interesting to try anyway. You'll have to let us know.
This is Linux Unplugged, episode 121 for December 1st, 2015. Welcome to Linux Unplugged, your weekly Linux talk show that it wants its portability and its horsepower. My name is Chris.
My name is Wes.
Hello, Wes. That might be a little hint to something we're going to talk about later in the show today.
Oh, look at you, Chris.
I know. Look at me teasing. In fact, coming up on today's episode of 121, we got a lot. We're going to start with a little look back over some recent things that developed, including from the Gimp project, a topic we touched on last week. Fedora 24 has got something brand new that no other distro is doing.
Whoa.
And I'm going to put it to the virtual lug. Is this maybe something we should all consider setting up on our own Linux installations? We'll talk about that. And then later on in the show, it's the tiny, mini, itsy-bitsy PC revolution.
Whoa.
In fact,
They're
we have
everywhere.
one right here in studio. We got it right here. It's called the
pretty
Omega
box.
Onion. Yeah, and it is a modular stackable PC. But there's a lot. You've also got that new Raspberry Pi Micro Mini thing, tiny
Yeah.
little computer that
The
does
space is
stuff.
exploding.
Could probably put Kodi on it. I don't know.
Oh.
And then, in the end of the show, I can't believe it, Wes. Here we are, December 1st, 2015, and Adobe has announced they're killing Flash.
Really?
Well,
You'll have to tell us
kinda.
more.
Yeah, don't believe the headlines. But I thought, you know what, we will tell you what's happening. And I thought, why don't why don't we just chat about what we do as Linux users to avoid using Flash whenever possible? And I am on a Flash anti-crusade this week because it basically locked up my X session this week. So
Ouch.
Chris has got an agenda to well, I'm going to grind some gears, to be honest with you. And then towards the end, maybe even in the post show if we have some time, I'm going to ask the virtual lug what they're thankful for, kind of as an homage to what we did on Sunday's Linux Action Show. That's a ton of stuff, Wes.
Yeah, that's great.
It's a big show. That's a big show. So why don't we get started by bringing in our virtual lug? Time-appropriate greetings, Mama Room.
Hello.
Hello. Oh, hello. Hi. Hi. So, guys, I don't know how many of you are gamers, but I talk about Steam games way too much, so I want to just mention something really awesome. When a total kick-butt open source game has an update, and it's a big update, Warsow 2.0 released with better graphics, Creative Commons licensed game assets, all that goodness, with a 30 to 50% faster performance, new heads-up display, all kinds of weapon parameter tweaks, and it's that game that has that cool cel-shaded effect.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, this is a cool open source game, and I kind of left it off my list accidentally on Sunday. And so today they have a brand new update, Wes, a brand new update, and I already installed it this morning and played it a little bit. It's a lot of fun.
It looks like a lot of fun. We should set something up and get some people to play it.
Mm-hmm. And it's a real fun one to land game. It's really easy to get going, and because it's open source, everybody can be on the same version. No awesome CD key generators required or anything like that. So Warsow 2.0 release, congrats to those guys. I just wanted to give them a shout out. Because,
it's very cool.
Yeah, because we should have probably mentioned it on Sunday. Now, something to follow up on from last week's episode 120 of Linux Unplugged. We talked about Gimp hitting 20 years old.
Quite the milestone.
20 years old, Wes. And now it can't quite drink yet, and it doesn't get a discount on rentals, but they do have some brand new features that they released just after Linux Unplugged came out. Like, they heard our show, and they're like, boy, those dicks. Let's show them.
Let's show them.
Let's show those guys, those Linux Unplugged bastards over at Jupiter Broadcasting. So they came out with a new update, and they've got some good stuff in there. Now, of course, as Unidentified in the chat room points out, Gimp can now drink in most
reasonable countries.
American countries, yeah. Rodden, are you still around? And did you catch anything in this Gimp update that caught your interest? Because I know you were kind of hard on Gimp last week.
Yeah, they've actually made some announcements that they're going to be using GEGL to do non-destructive editing in the future. They don't have that right now, but thanks to the GEGL, they're also doing 16-bit and 32-bit projects.
Right.
So that's some fundamental things that was missing. So I'm optimistic, but very cautiously optimistic.
Can we call it Gaggle? I think that's more fun.
Yeah, but
no. Yeah. I mean, so the 32-bit thing's a big deal. Also, huge improvements to open up PNG, TIFF, and PSD files, which if you think about people that are making migrations, that's a big deal. And one of the...
no.
Huh?
The PSD thing is overrated because they're saying that you can open up things. That's true, but there are things that you can't open regardless of they're better supporting the format, but the majority of PSDs are going to have features that are not going to be available. So, for example, if you try to open up a CMYK PSD, it just breaks.
Yeah, well, yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. And also some new canvas rotation tools that some people have said, well, okay, we kind of needed that for a long time. I mean, at the same, so it's sort of what we talked about last week. It's really hard not to talk about the GIMP and talk about how it's not stacking up to the commercial alternatives. And I kind of tried to make the case last week that really what we should be stacking it up against is anything else in this class that is free.
Right.
Because in this, it's not that free is an excuse for not high quality. It's that free is an enablement for a certain class of humanity that cost sometimes is a huge barrier for. Hello. Hi there. Hi there. So I mean, I wish GIMP was more competitive. At the same time, I'm really glad they've steadily improved it the way they have.
And I don't know. I don't follow the development that closely, but
potential.
It seems like there's a little bit more renewed interest. You know, they've got the new website design out, which I still think looks nice, and they're pushing forward on some features. We'll see. I think obviously we continue to watch.
I'm optimistic about it mainly because of a lot of the things that was really frustrating me that they didn't have. They're implementing now, and they're bringing in CMYK support. They haven't officially given like a date when it's coming, but they have announced that it's coming, and they're bringing in plugins that are trying to get like layer styles and stuff like that. But just the fact that they are actually, telling people that they're even doing this is an improvement. They're putting out press releases and stuff they've never done before, and like they've changed a lot of their direction, which I appreciate as someone who wants GIMP to be a solution. But based on the 20 years of it not being remotely relevant to me as a professional, I'm cautious, but I hope I'm wrong.
All right,
I'm going to be that it's actually going to be great.
I'm going to be that guy. I hate that I have to be that guy, but just consider this as Chris putting on his devil's advocate pants. It says devil's advocate right on the butt.
They're very cute.
Thank you. Is it really just a matter of too little, too late? And the reason I don't mean because Photoshop's a thing, because that's obvious. I mean, I've been reading a lot of reviews about people that are now drawing on tablets, like Odyssey Westra, who joins us frequently,
right,
draws on a tablet. And very, very good drawings. The Apple's iPad Pro just came out with their $100 pencil and their $1,000 tablet for drawing. There are a lot of apps out there now that take the touchscreen and maybe like a peripheral, and you are now like reaching an entire different audience. And the reason why I wonder if this is kind of a little too late kind of thing for GIMP is the audience those types of devices are reaching is the casual, average, everyday person, the exact kind of person that GIMP is perfect for, only not all that appealing to. And so I look at this and I go, wow, 20 years now, and now we're at a point where guys like Popey are trying to replace the desktop PC with an Ubuntu phone. And like, are they going to get to 25 years and then that usage, that desktop paradigm is going to be out of date? And there's going to be even less people using it than ever before? I don't know.
Well,
go ahead.
As a professional, I'm not looking at using a tablet except for a Wacom tablet. So those are just perfectly great using on a desktop.
And you would use that with GIMP or something to say if GIMP had good enough feature set?
Yeah, I mean, right now I use Illustrator and Krita.
Right, but see, you're looking at it more from a professional angle, and that seems pretty legit. And I don't think you could really ever replace like the Wacom tablet and the desktop level applications for any kind of serious work. But if you want to sketch something out, you want to just doodle a little bit, this is almost too much stuff, and it's too much complication. But yet, the very people it's appealing to are people that maybe are not high-end professionals. Am I making sense?
Yeah. I wonder if there's a couple distinct categories, too. Like, in at least in America, first world countries, I think you're right. I think that people, have enough means that if they want a nice drawing environment that's easy to use and doesn't have all the crazy features, they can get a nice tablet or something like that. I wonder about maybe the developing world, places where they have less access or they can't kind of spend that money on a whim to get just something for drawing, as a hobby. Mm-hmm. Maybe that's where GIMP can have more of a place.
If you're drawing, not just if you're creating designs,
right? It's more of Krita in Inkscape. Or,
If you're doing web design, GIMP maybe is a better tool. But for drawing, I would push GIMP aside because it doesn't have the features that Krita has.
Right.
And Krita is still free and open source.
Well, and speaking of Albert, Odyssey Westra, Krita, I believe, is what he uses to do his drawing. So that makes sense. I was just kind of what I was postulating is if the average use case is perhaps becoming more and more niche for GIMP.
Right. It does seem that way.
But at the same time, I think you make it better. Thing, go ahead. Yeah, Rod.
The introductory, like the beginner introduction to drawing, is actually easier for a desktop because you can get a Wacom tablet for $50.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So you could actually get use Krita, use a Wacom tablet, or even use something else. And you'd be able to do a lot more for a lot less to get it started.
You know what else is kind of interesting for me from a technology standpoint, and probably nobody else really cares about this, but GIMP is obviously a showcase of what the GTK toolkit can do.
Right.
And Krita, in its own way, if I believe, is Qt, right? So you have two completely different toolkits here, the two big toolkits being used to create two very high-end art applications.
Where does Inkscape fall? That's Qt as well, right?
Is Inkscape GTK? Maybe?
I don't know.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. Okay. It's just fascinating from a couple of different angles to watch these two applications, even though as somebody that has zero art skill, it doesn't totally really ever apply to me. Like I watch it and go, okay.
The funniest thing about GIMP and the GTK toolkit is the fact that the newest version of GIMP has a 2.9.x has like a much improved theming system, why can't they use it? Like, they built a cool toolkit, they built a cool theming system, yet GIMP is still hideous. Like, it's kind of weird that they build the fundamentals, but they don't have the ability to use what they build.
Yeah,
that's unfortunate.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I guess I do agree that it is. There's a lot going on with GIMP.
You could argue, you can make that customization argument with almost anything. Look at GNOME. Lots of theming potential there, but really, there's only about 4 strong themes out there that really look good.
Yeah, but the default of GNOME looks pretty good just by itself.
It's all right. It's okay.
It's when you compare it to things like Xfce that look just atrocious.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I mean, it's a good design, even if it's not perfect. But Adwaita is a weird design, but the shell itself is nice.
Yeah. You put Arc theme on there, you're good to go. Yeah. You're good to. Have you installed the Arc theme?
I have.
That's from the that's pretty slick. That is a seriously great theme.
Yeah.
And then you just mix and match the icons as you feel at it. And I'm telling you, my personal opinion, I don't think there's a better looking desktop. If you match the icons, you go all dark, and you put the Arc theme on there, I think it's the best looking desktop on the planet. So, GNOME's are Adwaita or whatever.
Where's your Unix porn?
Yeah, right. I should. You're right. Well, it's right here. It's on all my rigs. They've slowly over time. What I found is kind of interesting is I've just sort of landed on this in each of my GNOME installations too. It's not like it's not something I don't sit down and go, I got to install the Arc theme.
Right.
No, it just kind of happens. Anyways, Mumble Room, any other thoughts before we move on from the GIMP topic or Krita or anything like this? Wimpy, I know you'd pinged me at one point. Was there anything you wanted to add to the chat?
No, I think you've covered it. Just that Krita's a better tool for freehand drawing than GIMP. GIMP's a photo editor.
Yeah, I'm glad we made that point because I didn't want to. I didn't want to walk away from that.
I had something.
Yeah.
I don't think it really replaces the tablet and everything because they're different use cases. Totally. The tablet is not a consumption device, not a production.
I think that's starting to change though. You look at Microsoft with their Surface, and you look at convergence devices that are coming, and you got iPad Pros now with keyboards and pencils. I guess I was going to call
it. Laptops that have touchscreens and stuff.
Yeah.
Even I've tried hooking up a keyboard with a tablet and everything. It's just not the same as having a desktop. It really isn't.
No, I do agree. It's not there yet.
Totally different feel.
But I wonder if it's there enough. If it's there
and
enough.
For some people who do want to create, they don't need to futz with anything. They just want a canvas and enough tools.
Or so my mom is a professional graphic artist, right? And so one of the things that I know she would do is you start with a sketch, and you could do that on the tablet, and then you move it into Photoshop where you get the actual work done. Would be how she would look at it. Sure. I start with the outline on this nice little touchy device here that lets me draw.
Right. Maybe you're at the coffee shop. You just got your tablet. You're kind of thinking about things.
Or actually, I'm at the client meeting. The client's talking to me. Do it right there in the meeting. But then they can send that out in different formats and bring it into like Adobe Sketch is a thing even on the tablets and So it's interesting just to see that particular use case getting eaten up by that. But in the long term, if you want to sit down and do any serious work, I mean, for her, maybe that's just because she's been doing it for so long now, but she will never, ever, ever consider replacing her desktop with a tablet ever. So but maybe for somebody. Heavens, you want to take us out on the last note here?
Yes. The one thing that I think free and open source software might be a little bit the underdog is that the producers or creators of the software do not need to force their consumers to buy their product. So they might not be or have incentive to actually make it really good or at least worth money.
Or another way to say that is they don't have to chase the shiny.
Yeah, even though a lot of people can get paid for doing GIMP work, they don't really need to, sell it, do a lot of PR.
Yeah.
I think that's not why that makes them... I think it's the amount of money that they don't get money from it and they're not trying to sell it is not necessarily a bad thing, but it does make their production slower. So if they had more... If they did like an Indiegogo or something where they could get money and pay more developers to do more faster... GIMP would be a much more relevant program, but because they take so long to do everything, that's one of the reasons why it's just fallen behind so much, even in the open source field. Because I mean, if you're wanting to do basic editing, you don't really go to GIMP. There's stuff like Pinta, which is much simpler, much easier to use. And if you're going to do like really extensive drawing, you don't go to Gimp either. You go to Krita. So, I mean, Gimp is even falling back in the open source field.
Boy, there's more.
It's a shame.
There's more to this conversation than I first thought.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm curious to hear what the audience thinks listening, because I feel like this is one of those conversations where maybe somebody's listening and screaming at their car stereos. They're driving down the road or something.
You guys don't know anything.
Yeah.
Which we don't. That's fine.
LinuxActionShow.reddit.com, episode 121. If you would, I'd like to hear your thoughts, because this is fascinating, because Gimp to me is just such a great case study.
It really
Such
is.
a good one, for so many different
Highlights
reasons.
and, maybe some of the low points of open source.
Speaking of highlights, our first sponsor this week, DigitalOcean. Use our promo code. Get ready for this. Right in your face, DO Unplugged, one word, lowercase, $10 credit. DigitalOcean is a simple cloud hosting provider dedicated to offering the most intuitive and easy way for you to get your own rig up on their kick-ass servers. Linux, FreeBSD, it don't matter. They got a great infrastructure, all Linux rigs, powering everything. SSDs for all the disk I/O, KVM for the virtualizer, 40 gigabit E connections for their data centers. It's rocking. Go check them out. You can get started in less than 55 seconds, and pricing plans are only $5 a month for 512 megabytes of RAM, 20 gigabyte SSD, 1 CPU, and a terabyte of transfer. A terabyte.
And that 40 gigabit. I mean, that's great.
Wes, did you ever work on any kind of projects or stuff like 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago that where you had to get like a co-located server and
Yes.
put an actual server in the rack?
It's a pain.
It's
a huge pain.
Yeah, and the cost is nuts. So when I say a terabyte of transfer in these reads, I can't help but think back to when a terabyte of transfer at the average transfer price was $1,000 just for a terabyte of transfer. $1,000 just for the transfer.
Right.
Just for the transfer.
And now you can get that for $5 a month.
And it really blows me away. And then the fact that the whole thing is like exactly the kind of infrastructure I would build.
Yep.
If I could just have an unlimited budget and have at it, that's what exactly I would build. And then even if I could build what I would do Linux, I would do KVM, I would do SSDs, I would do crazy great data centers and connections. But the thing that I could never do, which is really awesome, is that interface. Oh, that interface is crazy great. Simple, intuitive, extremely powerful. Somehow they managed to do it. And what's not only great about that is not only did they manage to get those 3 impossible things actually accomplished, but they did it on an interface that manages virtual machines. Okay, that's crazy. That is crazy to my face.
That's new to the world, I think.
It is new to the world. So use the promo code DOUnplugged to get in on that S and get it for 2 months absolutely free. And also they have a great API to extend that all the way up into the rest of the world. That really means there's a bunch of great apps. So even if you don't know how to write nothing, you can go take advantage of some good stuff. Great tutorials. They got Fedora 24 up there now. They got, of course, all your favorite Ubuntus, your Debians, your CentOSs, and even that Core OS. And last but not least, FreeBSD. Oh my goodness, FreeBSD is even up on that DigitalOcean. Now, I don't know why you'd want to use that. I just tease. I love you guys. But go check it out. Use the promo code DOUnplugged. Support this show. It's one word. It's lowercase, and it gives you a $10 credit. Isn't that something amazing? You can support your favorite Linux talk show and try out DigitalOcean 2 months for absolutely free. DigitalOcean.com. Use the promo code DOUnplugged, and a big thank you to DigitalOcean for sponsoring Linux Unplugged. Linux Unplugged. Thanks, you guys. All right. So those crazy guys who, we got folks in here that work on their own distributions. We got folks in here from Canonical. We got folks in here from SUSE. We got folks in here from Anacros time to time. We got folks in here from all these different distros. We don't
Solus?
have... Yeah, thank you. You know where we don't have reoccurring folks from? Fedora. So I'm just going to speak for them. And if I get something wrong, it's their fault.
Yep.
Come
correct us.
Yeah.
You are an open invitation here.
But I think this is kind of neat. I think it's a neat idea, and it's something I wanted to bounce past you and the virtual lug to see if maybe it's not something we all want to consider doing on our own Linux rigs. So Fedora 24, it's that crazy distro that's coming out in the future in the year 2000, and it's going to support Wayland and something else that I think is a really good idea, especially as somebody who's on a slower, high-latency internet connection. A default local DNS server. They say plain DNS is just plain insecure and therefore vulnerable from various attacks, like cache poisoning. A client can never be sure that there is a no man-in-the-middle type scenario if they don't do DNSSEC validation locally. We want to have the Unbound server installed and running on localhost by default on Fedora systems, and also, where necessary, have DNSSEC trigger installed. So what the Fedora project is planning to do is include the Unbound DNS server set up as a default localhost resolver and then it'll go out to the rest of the internet if it can't find the name for something you're looking up. And I wanted to start with US, and then I wanted to bounce it around the Mumble Room. I can think of in an enterprise how this could maybe actually be a bad thing. But have you ever played with setting up local DNS on your LAN, and have you ever noticed anything? And what are your thoughts on Fedora just including it by default?
Well, I think it's interesting because doesn't Network Manager already, it uses DNS mask locally, I believe, by default.
You might be right.
I think they have those that installed.
Point. Okay.
I think where this is different, one, they're using Unbound, and then two, they're specifically setting up DNSSEC support and making it included.
All right, so let's break that down in two parts. So let's start with why the local DNS. Why do you think?
I mean, I think it's helpful. I know like Network Manager wants to use it for things like split horizon DNS. This is one thing I hope Fedora gets right. Like for me, it's important at work that I can have a set of DNS entries that are resolved over the VPN connection and then routed over the VPN
Absolutely.
connection, right? So if that doesn't work, then that could be a pain in enterprise environments where you need to be referencing name servers that get updated, at a set pace, or
not that uncommon.
Yeah, no, definitely not. But I think it does give you a lot of control. It also lets you cache things locally, which that's never bad.
I was thinking about from that angle back in the rover, the MiFi connection, right? High latency connection, and if I can make every time I go out to the web a little tiny bit faster, that sounds appealing to me. Now, can you touch a little bit on the DNSSEC thing? So DNSSEC, so they're going to Unbound now, and they're going to be doing DNSSEC. What do you think about that? Do you think it's maybe time for all distros to consider doing DNSSEC out of the box?
I don't know if I would say that. I think it's good that Fedora is exploring this. It does seem like there are a lot of potential vulnerabilities with DNS setups without DNSSEC. Maybe it doesn't go far enough. I don't know. Further discussion there is needed. But I think Fedora serves usually as a useful point where in Linux they kind of try something at a scale, fully integrated into their environment. And if it works, other distros will adopt it. If not, we can kind of see it. I'm excited to try Fedora 24 and see if it works for me.
Yeah, that is actually a good point. Like, we don't have to do it everywhere. Let's let Fedora try it.
I mean, like in a year or 6 months, I think we'll see like how well does it work. But it does. I mean, I've only ever heard good things about Unbound, so I would imagine it works pretty well.
Now, look at BNXNT in the chat room says an emphatic no on DNSSEC. An emphatic no. Now, anybody in the Mumble Room know why that might be? Because I
am not a DNSSEC expert.
Yeah,
but
no, neither am I.
About that.
But he linked us here. It says, DNSSEC is unnecessary. All secure crypto on the internet assumes that the DNS lookup from names to IP addresses are insecure. Securing those DNS lookups, therefore, enables no meaningful security because all the other stuff already thinks it's insecure. That's an interesting point right there, actually. I like this from two standpoints. I like it, obviously, from the performance standpoint. And I've been experimenting with DNSSEC myself for about a month.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I haven't really, once I did it, I actually forgot until today when I was like, oh yeah, we're going to talk about this today. I've been using it for a month on my XPS, and I forgot I even had it.
That's a good thing.
Yeah, so I haven't, from an end user standpoint, I feel like it just gives me a little more peace of mind because I know that stuff is not, and I don't mean to sound like I'm repeating myself, but I do not trust any wireless carrier. Any of them,
no.
Right?
I mean, how many of them have those super cookies?
Right, and so in the rover, I have right now I have a couple of different connections, and depending on which one's strongest is the one I'll use. And so I've got a unlimited MiFi device from Ting. Well, you pay for what you use.
Right.
That I'm feeling pretty comfortable with. I really have no issues. But the one that has stronger signal where the rover's parked at is an AT&T MiFi hotspot, and that one I'm pretty uncomfortable with. They've used super cookies in the past.
I believe they currently are.
Yeah, and they are, and they inject it into HTTP traffic right now. And so those kinds of things make me super uncomfortable because all of my internet is going through that right now.
Right.
And so I start looking at things like DNSSEC or VPN tunnels or HTTPS everywhere, and I start thinking if I could add these different layers, what it really does is give me peace of mind. And I almost wonder if we won't get to a place 6, 5, 7 years from now where we go, wow, I can't believe we did so much stuff over the net unencrypted. Like, it'll just become commonplace for encryption, for HTTPS and DNSSEC and all these kinds of things because it's not even about the encryption. It's about the validation of the endpoint. It's about validating who you're talking to is really who you intend to be talking to. And I think that's the aspect of it that will take off over the next few years, and then it's just going to become obvious that what do you mean it's not encrypted?
Because you're just spewing plain text to whoever wants it.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
Yeah, somebody could just be intercepting it. How do you know you're actually talking to that person?
Right.
I think that might be really sort of, and
more
that's
of a cultural thing here.
And that's why I'm a big fan of Let's Encrypt as well. is because it kind of plays into that same thing, and it allows some dude like me to have an own cloud server that has a Let's Encrypt certificate.
Yep.
Have at it.
That your friends use it, they won't balk because there's a little red X in the corner.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or if say I set up my own Mattermost
right.
server, it'd be another nice thing for that. Mumble Room. Anybody have any thoughts on setting up local DNS pros and cons? And if anybody has done it, anybody in the Mumble Room set up a local DNS server and using it right now?
Yes.
And what do you think? Good, bad, worth your effort?
I don't know. It's not a big deal anymore because it's part of my deployment configuration, so it just gets applied to all my machines.
So you install a local DNS server on each machine. You're not just doing one for your LAN? Then why?
Because I have a lot of roaming machines, so it's nice to have the local DNS server when you're out on the go, that kind of thing.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah,
and it's not a big deal to run it even on the machines that are already behind another level of cache.
Right. And what are you using to do the local DNS?
DNS mask.
Okay.
Just because it was simple.
And why not Unbound?
Not Unbound, because I'm familiar with DNS mask.
Yeah.
No good reason.
Yeah, I was thinking DNS mask seems like the go-to, but then when Fedora said, well, we're going to go Unbound, I went and looked it up, and it looks like it's really easy to set up and get going.
Yeah.
I was thinking about maybe doing a little
how-to. It looks pretty solid, and I don't need the DHCP server from DNS mask, so I might consider it.
It seems like that.
It depends on how flexible it is.
Yeah.
DNS mask has a lot of flexible settings to allow me to hit different DNS servers for different domains and that kind of stuff. I don't know if Unbound has all the same functionality.
Not sure.
We'll have to hear some report backs from you guys.
I kind of want to try it and find out.
I do too, yeah. Because I've been deploying DNS mask as well.
Yeah.
But that's just because that's what I knew how to use.
Yeah,
so.
And that was always kind of the go-to.
But I'm down to try it.
Vert, which I want to say Vendetta Online, but it's
Veritanuda.
Veritanuda. There we go. I like it. So you use it for VPN host resolving. Tell me about this.
Yeah, basically, okay. If you tie in your own name servers, you can resolve your individual VPN hosts for your total subnet. So what I actually do is I set up a DHCP server which links to my DNS servers via TSIG to set up mapping for all my VPN server for VPN clients. But when they connect to the VPN, they can automatically resolve each other's host name on the VPN, because they get the information from the local DNS server that's been pointed to them.
Huh.
It's a very easy way of doing it, and funny enough, this is exactly what Ting ended up doing for me as well.
Really?
Because Ting now builds it into the VPN setup. Yeah.
Really?
So basically, once you resolve one host, it will resolve hosts for all the other VPNs.
So Ting is something that
which kind of makes my.
Oh, go ahead. I just want to make sure you were saying Tink and not Ting. For the audience listening, yeah. So Tink is like a mesh VPN solution. Yeah, okay, go ahead.
And I was about to say the same thing. I like the local DNS.
Yeah.
For that reason is that you can set up your own. I mean, you can use your host file, but if you have a local DNS, it's a little cleaner.
Yeah.
You're configuring everything in the same spot.
Yeah.
You can replicate that to other machines.
Yeah, using the local host file. Well, that
just feels hacky.
Yeah. All right, and go ahead. Sorry, Vert. Did you want to finish?
Well, no, I was just saying, actually with Tinker, it makes it a little bit easier because you're doing it over a VPN anyway. You can now sync between each machine, the host files you need to connect to each other. So you basically build up your own darknet, if you like, because only the host you're connecting to will know about all the other hosts that you're connecting to.
Right. And of course, DNS is there's several different DNS options for pfSense. JB Live 8754 is pointing out that pfSense has Unbound as an option for pfSense servers. So there you go. I now that we've talked about this, I wonder if maybe I might not tonight go give this a little try at the Rover and see how it goes. I'll report back maybe. Well, you know what? Maybe if it goes really well, I might make a segment on Linux Action.
Yeah, that sounds fun. I'd like watching that.
Yeah, that'd be interesting. So, all right, Mumble Room, any closing thoughts before we move on? Any other DNS experts or DNS experienced want to know? Going once? Going twice? All right, very good. Very good. Good talk. Thank you guys for the information. And also, you know what I should do is I will include a link. Let me go down here to the segment. At the bottom of the segment in the show notes where we talked about Fedora 24, I will include a link to the issues with DNSSEC. So if you guys heard us mention that and you're curious what those issues are, I just added that link to the show notes so you can go read about that.
Maybe you can poke Alan and you guys can do a follow-up on.
Thinking, I wonder if Alan has any thoughts on that.
I bet he does.
You and I are on the same page, my friend. Hey, I don't know if you noticed this, Wes, but we relaunched the Last Jacket for a couple.
I think I want one. I need one.
You should definitely get one.
How can I not have one
right now?
Yep.
So it is back. It is awesome, and you can find them at teespring.com/LastUS, or if you're across the pond and you don't want to have to pay exorbitant shipping amounts, /LastEU. And here's the real shenanigans. You get in on that order right now, because we're only running them until December 13th. It's going to ship in time for the holidays.
Oh, so for your loved ones.
Yeah. Just
support the best network.
Put a last jacket in every single stocking. But really, we have multiple colors, and you can go grab yourself a jacket. These were maybe our most favorited item that we sold last year. We only run them for a limited time, and then they're all done. So go to teespring.com.
Collector's item.
LASS or LASS-EU. It is a collector's item, and it keeps your tummy warm. And depending on how you zip it up, no man boobs, which is really, if you got man boobs, no man boobs.
Cover your shame.
Exactly, Wes.
No judgments.
And we also have a link on the sidebar at jupiterbroadcasting.com. teespring.com/LASSUS and LASSEU. And the EU has better color options, so you could actually be in the US and order from the EU if you want to get like some crazy colors. Yeah.
They've got all the best stuff.
Teespring got a good deal set up over there. Apparently over there they know how to print and make sure it's real good.
I see.
Yeah, that's the thing. I want to tell you about something else that's a thing. It's one of my favorite sponsors, Linux Academy. I think this is a great fit for you guys because it's a great resource for you to go learn more about the systems we all love. What's great about Linux Academy is sort of what I think is great about Jupiter Broadcasting, and that might be one of the reasons why I think they're a great sponsor. They actually care about Linux and open source. Turns out when you actually care about Linux and open source and then you make content about Linux and open source, you do it better than other people. Because you actually live and breathe this stuff. You actually care about this and you follow it from day to day. Go to linuxacademy.com/unplugged, linuxacademy.com/unplugged to get our special discount and support this show. It's a really good deal. Linux Academy freaking rocks. They got 7+ distributions you get to choose from. They got like almost 2,000 self-paced courses with videos and high-quality contents you can download on the offline. Everything's backed by a nice CDN with HTML5 players. They have instructor help available for you whenever you need it, which is a really nice feature. They got labs they spin up on demand. They got the AWS courses for the Amazon stuff. And the reason why I mention that is I kind of found myself one time having a client that all of a sudden was my responsibility and had AWS infrastructure, primarily around S3 at the time.
Right.
I did not really, that's not like Linux as we know it or anything like that.
It has its own unique quirks.
It definitely does. It definitely does. Now, I've told this story before, but I can't remember the exact number now because it was several years ago. But when I was just sort of playing around on S3 trying to figure out how to do things before I went and charged them how to do it, or even just said, yeah, I know how to do that. Right. I actually want to see if I could do it. I think I racked up like a $300 bill on AWS. It was something around there. Yeah. It was ridiculous. So what's really cool is regardless of what you're learning Ruby, you're learning Nginx, you're learning IP tables, you're learning how to do basic development, or maybe you're learning AWS. They'll spin up the lab servers for you on demand. They have a really great interface. You can SSH right in and rock that S. They have scenario-based labs, which is really nice because that gives you really good hands-on experience. You'll work in their advanced live environments while completing these scenarios from beginning to end on live servers. Isn't that nice? Break somebody else's stuff. They have real-time feedback, too. They have great courses for the Red Hat certified courseware. And they have instructor help available at any time. Nice content, always getting updated, refreshed. You can keep track of your progress as you go along. They break things down into hourlies. It is really cool. They have an availability planner. So you can go into Linux Academy and say how much time you have availability and how much time you have available. And they'll automatically generate the courseware to match your time availability. I think that's really, really cool.
Yeah, I mean, that seems pretty unique.
Dude,
it's so flexible.
Even in the holidays when things get busy, you can find a way to sort of schedule in a few hours, a couple hours on Tuesday. Dude, do it while you're listening to JB content. I'm going to listen to JB content for this hour while I have Unplugged going on in the background. I'm going to go do this. Yeah, you know what? Why not?
Yeah, you can do it all the time. Really.
Or in the shower. Yep. It's a thing. It's a shower
little
thoughts.
Touch tablet in there. Open up your SSH session. You're good to go.
Hey-o. That's why you need a pencil. So the other thing I think is really great is they have graded server exercise. You can get your work evaluated while connected to a real server. Their courses include exercises where you log into a lab server and perform specific tasks, and Linux Academy automatically grades your actions so you can see how well you did. Graded exercises are included in all Linux Academy memberships. They have a great technology stack, everything you'd want built around Linux, including some of the simple things like rsync or IP tables or just basic Linux commands like tar. Seriously, fundamentals all the way up the entire stack, all the way up to the Red Hat stuff, Android development, Python, Ruby, PHP, Nginx, Apache. Now, I always go off on the list here, but you guys know all of the big technologies out there that are popular. Linux Academy probably knows even more than you do. That's why they follow this stuff.
They are following the heartbeat of open source. You know, like they just see what people want. They're seeing what's popular, and because they use it themselves.
You know what? They should take that and run with it. Yep. They are following the heartbeat of open source. Linux Academy, Wes is just an idea guy. You got to run with it.
Yep.
But he's going to give that to you. He's going to give that to you.
We love you.
So go to linuxacademy.com/unplugged. We ask you to go there because that supports the show, lets them know you heard about it here, and you can check out their services. But really, it gets you a phenomenal discount. linuxacademy.com/unplugged. Okay, Wes. So you had an idea, which once we started kicking it around, I was like, this is a great idea because there is a lot of stuff happening in this space. And, you know, when you first started kicking around this idea, if I had a little more time, I was going to go over to the Computer Chronicles website, and I was going to get a clip because, you know, we used to call back in the 80s what we now call PCs and laptops and desktop, they called mini and micro PCs,
right?
Because they weren't mainframes.
Yes, you could fit them in, you know, more than one giant room
or whatever. Yeah, exactly. Yes. So now here we are on the Linux Unplugged show, and we're once again about to talk about micro PCs or mini PCs. Only now we mean something that isn't like an Intel-based, high-end, powerful desktop.
No way.
The history is repeating itself on the Linux Unplugged show today. And to start off the conversation, we want to talk about something that's kind of been big news over the last few weeks, and that's the Pi Zero. And this video will introduce us to it.
I've brought some props for today's video. These are two computers from my childhood. It's a BBC microcomputer. I bought one of these in 1989 for £220. This is a Commodore Amiga. I bought this in Christmas of 1992 for £199 at Lewis's in Leeds. When I bought each of these machines, I had to basically just drain all the money I had. I had to drain my bank account, my piggy bank, and all of my savings went into each of these machines at the time that I bought them. When I was a kid, the high cost of computers like these was a real barrier to me learning about computers. And really what we've been trying to do with Raspberry Pi is to make sure that cost is never going to be a barrier to anyone who's interested in getting involved in coding. When we launched Raspberry Pi, we took about a factor of 5 out of the cost of a sort of typical low-cost computer. But we still meet people for whom you tell us that cost is a barrier to entry for them. So lately, this year, since the Raspberry Pi 2 effort wound down in February, we've been asking ourselves what we could do to maybe take a little bit more cost down. And today, we're launching a new product. This is Raspberry Pi Zero. This is a full-fledged Raspberry Pi. We've got a 2835 here, and so this is the same chip we used in Raspberry Pi 1, except up-clocked a little bit, so it's about 40% faster. Got half a gig of RAM, HDMI connector, SD card, USB to connect mouse and keyboard.
Nice.
And the same pin out, although it's not populated, the same GPIO pin out that we have on modern Raspberry Pis, on the B+, the A+, and the Pi 2. This is going on sale today. We've made a few tens of thousands of these. This is going on sale today from our distributors at $5. So
$5.
You just can't believe that.
$5 US greenbacks. Unbelievable, Wes. And I look at this and I think, holy crap, this is the future we're living in now. And I just can't even wrap my head. They've already sold out, I believe. I think
from a lot of retailers, yeah.
Which is just wow.
But they'll be back.
So the show. Yeah. What's the magazine about?
Days?
What's the chat room talking about? The magazine. What's everybody talking about? The magazine.
Oh, this was awesome. But when they first announced they were going to do $5 things, they also said, well, the Pi Mag magazine it's a community magazine, and it's $6 to purchase. If you purchased one on the day or a couple days after, it was the Pi Zero was attached directly to the magazine cover.
So for like $6, you got a magazine and
oh my gosh,
you buy the mag. So in the UK when it came out, like every newsagent sold out of the magazine straight away because it's a free computer on the cover. Who wouldn't want that? But if you're a subscriber to the magazine, you can still get it. And also in the US, where they're coming a little bit later in the month, you can get the Magpie magazine over there with the same Raspberry Pi on the cover.
We'll have to go snag
Some
those.
people have joked that you buy a Pi Zero and you get a free magazine.
Exactly.
Yeah, if I can just remind everyone of my generation that back in the day of early day computing, you used to get cassettes on the front of magazines free with them. Now you're getting computers free on the front of magazines.
And I remember when it was a big deal when you got a like Linux format came with a CD with a Linux distro on there or something. So yeah, this $5 computer has a 1 gigahertz ARM11 processor, which was 40% faster than the first Raspberry Pi. 512 megabytes of RAM, a micro SD card slot, a mini HDMI socket for 1080p output with 60 frames per second. And of course, it has the 40-pin GPIO header. We love that. And it has a unpopulated composite video header, and it is 65 millimeters, by 30 millimeters by 5 millimeters. And it's not even. Of course, there's the chip. The chip is sort of been. Of course, the chip wasn't exactly as cheap as they originally said it was going to be.
Right.
But you also have things like we have right here in the studio. We have this Omega Onion. In the box, Alan has one of these. He's been talking about this too.
I hadn't heard too much about it, but that's a shame because these seem really cool.
Yeah, it was a Kickstarter I backed, and how could I not back it after they had this crazy, crazy, crazy great Kickstarter video? So I want to talk about the Raspberry Pi Zero and also this Omega Onion. Check out their Kickstarter video.
There are two worlds. The real world and the digital. And then there's the cat world. Oh, the lovely cat world. The problem with the two worlds is that in order to connect objects in the real world with the digital world, you need to be a rocket scientist or some sort of physicist from the Manhattan Project, or one of those brains in a jar. But not anymore. Meet Onion.
For the past year, we've been hard at work building something that's small, affordable, and really easy to use so that we can merge the two worlds together. We wanted to be like Tony Stark and be able to build whatever comes to our mind without learning how to build these things. And that is exactly why we created this, the Onion Omega. Thanks, Oliver. It's a tiny computer with built-in Wi-Fi and it runs the Linux operating system.
Heyo,
we know that
This little bad boy lets you create connected devices in environments that you're already familiar with using tools such as SSH, Git, and NPM. And it also allows you to write software in Python, Node.js, PHP, or whatever language you feel comfortable with.
Node.js.
You now have the power to build anything you can imagine, such as smart home devices.
Smart!
Security drones.
Drone.
Security spiders.
Spider! That's amazing. I want it.
Or even a cat feeder. A cat feeder that realizes your cat is too fat and then makes it exercise.
Nice. Laser
Or
pointer.
if you don't want to build from scratch, you can browse the Onion App Store for ready-made apps.
In fact, if you want to see what you can build on the Omega right now, click on the live demo below and start to experience the Omega in real time.
Artemis. The Omega allows me to build things in languages that I already know, and using things that I'm familiar with, like callback functions. And I actually built this light bulb in just 10 minutes, and it's remote controlled.
I really like working with the Onion Omega. It was really easy to use. I'm not a programmer or an engineer of any kind, but I went to the Onion App Store and I downloaded and customized an app that allows me to draw images for my Facebook newsfeed and put them into a digital photo frame.
She's a high school teacher.
The Omega is almost ready for production. We're so close to realizing our vision of making the Internet of Things accessible to everyone. And we want you to be a part of our revolution and start inventing connected devices that will make our world a smarter place. Right, Oliver?
What happens when we connect the real world with the digital? Awesomeness.
There you go, Wes. Are you ready to take part in the revolution? Do you want to unbox the Onion Omega?
I do.
Have at it there. Okay, so it comes in a very small box.
It's very smooth, too. Nice yes. Premium cardboard here.
The in-the-hand experience for the box is quite nice. I do agree, yeah. And
it's got like a puzzle piece
It
top.
does. It kind of comes apart, yeah, because, yeah, it has actually very much a puzzle piece top. It's literally a puzzle piece, isn't it?
It's kind of hard to get open.
And then 3 individual boxes. So there's the expansion dock right here. Yeah,
very nice. Oh, look at that.
Yeah, so it comes and then here's the actual here's the Omega box. So that's the Omega.
Tiny.
Yep. And so I got the mini dock and the expansion dock, and that's where you can plug in different stuff. So I guess we can here. I will turn on the webcam. A limited exclusive treat on the Unplugged show here. I'm going to pull the Omega out of the box right now. Look at how it's even smaller than it looks in their Kickstarter video. It's unbelievable. It's smaller than the palm of my hand.
Wow, look at that.
Look at
tiny.
That is ridiculous. That is ridiculous. And there's the expansion. Oh my gosh. This is a tiny, tiny Linux computer. Wow, Wes.
Oh, these docks are cool too.
Look at this thing. Here, I'll take that dock.
Here you go.
So this is the bigger, so there's 2 docks. There's a mini dock and then there's the big boy expansion dock. And that's this one here. This is the big boy mini expansion. And yeah. So you plug in the Omega to the top of the expansion dock right here. So it plugs into the top of the dock right here. And now it has all of the functionality that the dock has.
Dang.
Yeah. Which in this case is a USB port and then another set of expansions.
Which seems perfect if you're prototyping and you want to use those things, but you're not ready to solder on headers.
Isn't that something? So you just snap it together.
Wow.
Alan was talking about this on the TechSnap pre-show. Wow, there's micro HDMI. Huh.
Oh, dang.
Yeah. So that's pretty much. So there's your USB port for your input, and there's your HDMI out right there, and it has Wi-Fi on it.
Man, you could just duct tape that behind your TV and away you go.
Put MB on this, and my problems are solved,
exactly.
sir. So it
really seems to flirt with the, flirt with the border. Before we kind of had the Arduino on one end of the spectrum and the Raspberry Pi on the other, and you have like the full Linux experience, or you're writing it in C++ yourself. And this is like, well, you can, if you're familiar with Linux, but maybe you're not an expert in microcontrollers, you can just deploy it right here, and you're away you go.
No kidding. Vert, you've had a chance to play with it. What do you think?
Yeah, it's a really sweet, tiny little PC it is, and it is so easy to set up because basically when you power it on, although be careful because the power switch is very fragile, on the docks anyway.
Yeah.
When you power it on, it becomes its own self-access point. It does. So basically you just scan the Wi-Fi network, find the Omega, whatever it is, access point SSD, join it, go to the web, configure it, set your passwords, set your SSH, set your network, set your other Wi-Fi networks, and it will basically just reboot it right into a proper PC on your network. It's fantastic.
That is really awesome.
It's running open WRT.
Okay. Isn't that something? I think it's sort of astonishing because I have the specs in the show notes. I just find it astonishing that it's getting to the point now where, I just backed some project on freaking Kickstarter.
I believe Alan said he was setting up instructions for FreeBSD as well on this game, right? Which is awesome.
Yep. So it ships with OpenWRT. It has a 400 megahertz processor, 64 megabytes of DDR2 RAM, 16 megabyte of flash. It's got 802.11 BGN on it. It has 18-port GPIO. Yeah, I love. Isn't it interesting how they list Node.js as a supported thing?
Well, that's important.
Yeah. Wimpy, I kind of wanted to pick your brain because I know you've hinted before on some pre and post shows that, and I haven't not yet gotten the complete picture, but the Raspberry Pi is starting to play a more and more important role for the Ubuntu MATE distro, isn't it?
It's our most popular platform.
Wow. So you mean other than x86 or including x86?
It's more popular than 64-bit, 32-bit x86 and
Holy shit.
That's crazy. Wow.
Oh, my world has just been rocked. Are you kidding me?
No, it's downloaded about 1,200 times a day, the image for the Pi
2. That's awesome.
Wow. That's serious. That is. So what are your thoughts on that?
Well, it means that in the last 2 releases of Ubuntu MATE, I've done the work for the Pi version in the last month of the release.
Right.
But for this release, it's got even, it's being treated equally all the way through the development stage now.
I feel like I need to take a minute. Like I wasn't ready for that level of a bomb to be dropped. I don't know why I didn't know that because I kind of feel like I should have known that. But to me, is shocking. To me, actually,
I've actually been paying attention to a lot of communities around Raspberry Pi and Reddit or Google Plus and various different places, and the majority of times people asked what to put on the Pi, Raspbian is no longer even mentioned. Ubuntu MATE is always the first choice.
I mean, it makes sense.
Does make. I mean, it's way more pleasant to use than the defaults, and it looks pretty.
Wimby, that's a big deal, though. I mean, congratulations, because that's a big deal.
Yeah, it is.
And so, when you look at these types of devices, are you starting to say, all right, these aren't just sort of toys; these are going to become possibly the next open PC? Now, hold on. Before I want to make sure I'm framing this right, but when I look at tablets and phones, I get a little sad because they look locked down and glued together. And I remember a time when I was in high school and I scraped together parts for months and months and months and built my first PC. I went and picked out my own case, and it was a life moment for me.
And you learned a lot along the way.
A ton of stuff. And I read. I mean, it was really my first geek project that I really researched and all of that kind of stuff. And now I look at this Onion Omega here, and I'm sitting here like Legos building a PC. And I think, geez, I could give this to my kid. And he could play Minecraft on this, or maybe not this one, but the Raspberry Pi Zero. I mean, this is maybe getting to the point now where it is actually going to be something that has some serious long-term legs as a serious desktop contender. And one more thing, Wimpy, before I toss it back to you, is in the late 90s, had a conversation with a guy named Scott, really great guy, and his day job was to run an IBM mainframe. And he looked down at desktop PCs as toys that couldn't do real work, that weren't powerful enough. And he called the desktops, you mean those Mattel Inside PCs? Those Mattel Inside, because they were toys.
Right.
And and I look at the Omega and I go, this is a cute Lego toy. But actually, maybe I'm looking at it from Scott's perspective. And when Wimpy says he's getting over 1,000 downloads a day, Wimpy, I'm wondering, are you looking at this, and are these mini PCs, these Raspberry Pis and these Omegas and the BagelBone and all, whatever, are you looking at this and going, this might actually be something that gets wider adoption use than the traditional PC one day?
I think so. Certainly, if you look outside of the developed nations, I think this is going to be the ARM-based devices are going to be the principal computing platform. And if you're not doing stuff on ARM, you'll be irrelevant.
Wow. Bad time to own Intel stock.
Yep.
No, I think that will be relevant. It'll be a different market and different use case, but I think that we've not seen the extent to which ARM is going to be relevant for Linux adoption, and in particular Linux as a learning platform.
Kits and Kitty, you kind of point out, I mean, these kind of machines get the basic work done, and, well, that kind of solves a lot of people's problems, doesn't it?
Yeah, I was just thinking, what do 90% of what you do on a computer consist of? Web browsing, email, editing a text file, that kind of thing. Maybe watching a YouTube video. The Pi can handle all that.
Yeah, and so, and it's not even, see, I think what I used to bristle at is I used to feel like we were talking down, and I kind of, I wonder if I still do feel that way. So, something that Carl said a few times during our visit at System 76 is one of the things that their basic market research keeps, and market research being, being in a business for 10 years selling PCs, one of the things that they have really learned, maybe even the hard way, is you can always err on the side of giving people more powerful computers. Like there's never going to be a day where people don't need more powerful systems. And so I guess I kind of had that Scott-like view where I looked at this and go, well, these little toy computers will never be powerful enough. But that is sort of looking at it in a perspective where there isn't lots of different cloud options when you need to spin up like a droplet to do something really powerful, or throw it on Google Engine or whatever the hell, Azure, I don't care. There's a lot of different options there when you need really, really, really high-end compute. And there's a lot of options when you need really, really local, something local, really high-end. You can still have a desktop. But there are so many use cases where I've worked with people where their primary job is checking email, doing things on their corporate applications, which are sometimes web applications, sometimes not. And they do all of these things that are really sort of low-end tasks. And it's not to be, I'm not trying to be rude. I just that's just all they use these particular quote-unquote tools for. And so what does it take then What does it take to make it from the hobbyist project to actually something that consumers could actually start buying? Like, why don't we have a Best Buy that has more ARM laptops and desktops on the shelves than they do x86 machines? Why isn't Lenovo selling an ARM laptop? Why isn't HP and Dell selling an ARM laptop that we're all buying? And before we go there, I'll have you answer that first, Wes. But before we go there, you found this again. This is a perfect example of where the Raspberry Pi is really cool, but this is a straight up hobbyist project. I like it, and so I'm going to point it out to the audience so they can read more about it. But it's a great example of where the Raspberry Pi is being used today, and this is not even an uncanny valley issue. This is way far removed from what consumers want. Anyways, this is you can take a Raspberry Pi and a Wi-Fi dongle and basically turn it into like a remote AirPlay receiver or audio receiver. So you can use a couple of projects that reversed Apple's AirPlay protocol and actually stream to this instead of having to go get like a really expensive device. If you have iOS devices in the house and you want to stream audio, you can do it with this Raspberry Pi. Yep. It's pretty cool.
I think that it's because a lot of people don't know that it's an option. But if you show them that, hey, there's this $35 to $50 option that you can utilize instead of spending $1,000 on a workstation, I think people would go for it if they knew what it was actually capable of.
I don't agree. Do you agree? I don't.
It's a smart business decision.
Here's why. Because this is what I'm saying. Is this what I'm asking you? And Wes, I'll let you have the first answer, and then we'll throw it to the mumble room. Why is nobody picking up on this? Why is Lenovo? So Lenovo today can take a Intel spec motherboard, an Intel CPU. They can build a PC from parts that they assemble themselves in a housing, and then they ship. Why can't they take something like that Raspberry Pi or something just like it and build their own version, put it in a case with a great keyboard, and ship it? Why is that not happening?
I'm not sure that I think you could do it, but I don't know if they see the opportunity in terms of operating systems. I mean, I think that Android isn't there as a desktop operating system. Maybe if they had partnerships with I think what we see is Chrome OS.
Is it that Android isn't there, or is it that Google creeps people out?
Well, maybe both. And I think for the main people who are using desktop, they're comfortable with Windows. The newer one, maybe they can now that Raspberry Pi 2 will run Windows 10, right? So there may be an avenue there. But I wonder if they don't see something they can pre-build well.
What was that, Rodden?
It's an incredibly stripped down Windows 10. It's not really Windows 10.
That's a good point.
Yeah. Wimpy, you think there's that one piece really that's holding it up?
Well, not that's holding it up, but I think that, for example, the things that I run into most with the question and answers for Ubuntu MATE on the Pi 2 is, can I run Flash on it? Which you can't, because there are no Flash binaries for ARM Linux. Can I run Wine on it? No. Or, yes, you could kind of compile it in a certain way and it runs really badly. And you get those sorts of questions, and people aren't aware that it is just because it runs Linux doesn't mean it runs everything that you're used to running on, Intel.
So don't call it
Linux.
Call it something. I mean,
right? We're so used to Wintel.
Google got away with that by calling them Chromebooks.
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
and to some extent also, rolling their own version of Flash to bridge one of those.
Yeah, that too.
Yeah.
But if you're Lenovo or Dell, you've been selling to a traditional audience of x86 users who will be expecting to use the same or similar software, and when some of it's not available, then maybe that's a tough call. But so they're selling Chromebooks, and some of those in the Far East are ARM based now.
Yes.
Worth pointing out that the things that are not available are the evil proprietary things.
Yeah,
it's not
and also
free
for
software.
legacy
That's
stuff
all
as well. Yeah.
Well, and we were just discussing, this average, just basic work type, task type work where the computer is a tool. They might not care as much about some of these things. In fact, in a work environment, not having Flash is a security advantage and a work productivity advantage, right? Yep. Legitimately. So I guess I don't feel like we have fully answered that question. I don't know what it is exactly.
I think the problem is that we look at it different. We present it actually the wrong way, because we present it as the replacement for a PC, right? Whereas we shouldn't be telling people that, because it's not capable of everything you can do on your desktop computer.
GIMP is not a replacement for Photoshop. It is a separate line of tool that is available.
Yes, but what you should show people is, like, this is a cool thing that you could use to browse Facebook with, right? Or put up in your kitchen and look up recipes with. And all you need is some screen and something to, a keyboard and a mouse, and you have your tiny computer in your kitchen, right? And then you can show them that, look, this, what you've considered to be just a recipe looking up device, is also capable of those other things. Instead of showing them that this is a computer that's not capable of all the other things that you're using your computer for.
That's actually pretty good insight, because that's why the smartphone has been so successful, is because it was, as far as it was replacing the dumb phone, which was not a high bar. And so you could, Apple could launch their overpriced iPhone that didn't even have copy-paste support for 2 OSs, because the bar wasn't that high. Right. And when you come in and you say, I'm replacing the PC, well, guess what? Pretty high freaking bar. Pretty high. That makes sense.
Have you seen what PC can do?
Yeah. PC do what?
Yeah, right, exactly.
Damn it, Wes. Screw you. That is the worst advertising campaign ever. But it worked. Son of a gun. All right, Vert, you want to talk about the future, making everything a little bit smarter. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, basically, with this kind of dropping computing, and more specifically sophisticated computing, it means these little devices like the Pi Zero or the Omega can now be turned into a general purpose kind of smart sensor or smart device that can be plugged into anything, basically. Displays, light switches,
like this
fridges,
article
toasters, whatever you want to plug it into.
This article that Wes found before the show is, you take a simple speaker, and now all of a sudden this is a quote unquote, if I was in the industry, a smart speaker, because it can receive Bluetooth or AirPlay or DLNA audio.
Pulse will multicast as well. Or MPD. So.
Yeah, in fact, this is actually using Pulse to send from your Linux box.
A classic example of that, of course, is now I actually have a Pi acting as an alarm clock for my partially sighted father, because he can't necessarily see the display all the time, and so he wants to be able to hear it. So it's a talking clock, and because now it's a talking clock connected to the internet, it can now read things like emails, and can now do other things that it wouldn't have been able to do.
That sounds great or horrible.
So that's what small computing does for you.
Yeah, good point. Wimpy, I also have noticed, especially when it comes to a demographic that I'm intimately familiar with, my children, there is some essential use cases that the Pi is totally capable of, like things like YouTube or Minecraft, and that is a huge core audience, wouldn't you think?
Yes, one it can do and one it can kind of do. So when I've been going along to the Pi Jams, I've been taking an Ubuntu MATE setup and getting makers and other visitors to come and have a look and have a play and give me their feedback. And it's interesting that when the kids go on it, they basically want two things. They want to be able to play Minecraft, and they want to watch YouTube. And if it doesn't do that, it's irrelevant. That's the end of a discussion.
And it has to be able to play Minecraft without, quote unquote, lag.
Right.
And lag is frame drops, I guess. I don't know exactly what lag is, but
so there is a Minecraft version for the Pi. It's the Minecraft Pi edition, which is a bit like the Pocket edition of Minecraft. But it comes with Python bindings, so you can you can program it and what have you. And YouTube, at the moment, we don't have the fully accelerated graphics driver for the chip that's on the Broadcom SoC in the Pi. So that's all software at the moment, and that's a bit poor. But I've embedded a utility in Ubuntu MATE where you can suck down, you can visit YouTube within Firefox and pull cut and paste the URL, and then it will stream the URL into the IMX player, which is the hardware assisted player. So you get the full hardware assisted full screen playback streaming from YouTube.
Clever. So actually, you're kind of getting into my next segment. Our next segment is really some clever tricks to avoid having to use Flash altogether, partly because ARM, but also because of Adobe's announcement this week. So pause right there, Wimpy, and let's pick that back up because that's actually a perfect segue to our next segment. So I'll mention the perfect telco, friends. It actually exists because their business model is different. Ting is mobile that makes sense. Ting is an MVNO of a couple of different networks. So instead of like getting all involved in like digging the trenches, installing the towers, running the fiber, fighting the local city council to make sure they can actually run a tower right there, which is an unbelievable fight, contracting with the designers to design the tower and all. And it's interesting, as a contractor, I've worked at each stage of the process and watched telco. It's interesting, when a telco comes into an area, it's both an amazing investment for the local businesses, and it is just a nightmare for the telco. So it's an incredible investment for the local businesses when a telco wants to put a tower in, because they're going to have to trench and run fiber to that location. And a lot of times they'll resell that fiber to all of the other local businesses in that area. But can you imagine the administrative overhead just to manage that? But at the same time, like, there's all of the local rules, like, for here it's the PUD, it's our public utilities, that they have to like get approval from, where the poles can be at and all this kind of stuff. Then they have to take it to an architecture firm that designs the tower. The tower then gets approved by the local city, which then goes off to the state to get approved. And it's all writing checks the whole way.
That sounds like a lot of work.
Writing checks, right? So what Ting has done is they write on top of all of that. So that's why they're able to invest in the customer. So the other guys have done the work there, and now they need somebody to come along and actually get some customers on it. That's where Ting comes in. So it's $6 a month for the line. Flat rate right there. And then it's just your usage on top of that. No contract, no early termination fee. And because Ting isn't out there digging ditches, they're able to have fanatical customer service. They're able to have a great website, and they're able to charge incredibly low rates. And if you're just a little bit savvy with how you use things, you can get by with unbelievable rates. So I've got 3 phones that I pay every single month for on Ting. The bill is like around $40 a month. $40 a month for 3 phones, smartphones. It's ridiculous. It makes sense. And there's no contract. There's no early termination fee. They have a GSM and CDMA network you can take advantage of. So if you know what that means, then you're probably clever enough to figure out which one's better in your area and just go with that one. And it also probably means you've got a device that's compatible with Ting. And Ting has a brand new app you can get on the Android marketplace, the Android Play Store, to check to see if it's compatible with Ting, to get all of the information. They made it easier than ever. They have the brand new Ting compatibility checker. Woohoo! Guess what? I didn't see this earlier. Kyra's here to tell us all about it too. Let's go, girl!
If you ever wanted to check a phone to see if it's compatible with Ting, this is the app you'll need.
All right!
I'm Kyra, and this is the Ting download.
Yeah!
Woo! The Ting compatibility checker app for Android, checks your phone's compatibility with Ting. It doesn't do anything else.
Yeah.
It's beautifully simple, if we do say so ourselves. It's also a very small download. It's intended to be used once and uninstalled. At less than 1.5 megabytes, you won't have to worry about deleting other apps to make space for this one.
Smart.
Here's how it works. Install the app and open it up.
Cha-cha-cha.
Tap to check your phone. The app pulls your phone's unique serial number,
All right.
it's IMEI, and runs it against the database of phones that'll work. It only takes a second.
1 second.
Once the process finishes, you'll find out right away. If your phone is compatible, you'll also get info on which network services it will support.
Boom.
As you'd expect, the app is free and you can grab it from the Google Play Store.
All right.
The Ting compatibility checker is Android only. iPhone currently doesn't allow apps to pull specific phone info. But you can always use the web-based compatibility checker at ting.com/check on your desktop or mobile browser.
All right.
It's almost as simple. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Wow. Did it just get easier than ever to switch to Ting?
I think it did.
Look at them. That's thinking.
Well, and did I hear that they have their SIM cards on Amazon now?
They do. Amazon Prime at that, and you just pop them in a device, check them out.
Dang.
So all you got to do is go to linux.ting.com to support this show and get yourself a discount. Go check them out. linux.ting.com. And now it's easier than ever to bring an Android device. Interesting. iPhone not letting you get access to that information. I wonder which one protects your privacy. Anyways, linux.ting.com. Go get yourself a great device. And then would you tweet me and tell me about how much you're saving? Because you're going to want to tell somebody and share it with your bro.
Chris will always listen. Just contact him 24/7. He doesn't mind, especially when he's doing shit.
Just call me directly. All right, so let's talk about Adobe killing Flash. Well, the name. Not really killing Flash. But, if you got yourself Creative Cloud, heads up, they're going to rename your application, so watch out, everybody. Big changes coming down the pipe. A new name. Really excited about that. And they're going to make an emphasis on HTML5, 9-binary output. How about that, everybody? You're really, really excited now, aren't you? Are you amped up? If you're not amped up enough, well, there's this French guy. And this French guy, he's got a really, really, really shallow depth of field, and he wants to tell you all about it.
Hello, my name is Michael Chaz. I'm a Creative Cloud evangelist based in Paris and a long-time interactive designer. With the growth of HTML5, demand for animation formats that leverage web technologies has grown, and the Flash Pro team has responded, adding first-class support for exporting animations to HTML5 in order to clearly define the role of this application as the premier animation tool for the web and beyond. I'm very excited to announce that Flash Professional is being renamed to Adobe Animate CC.
Adobe Animate CC.
And Adobe Animate CC will be...
Can I just stop here? Did you notice how he says the word Adobe? I want to play that back just for a second.
And Adobe Animate CC...
Adobe. The only reason I mentioned that is last week you and I were trying to come up with how you say hat in French.
Yes.
And we got so much shit for how we tried to say hat in French. Well, how about an Adobe employee in France that can't even pronounce the company he works for, you guys? You give me crap all the time. Well, what's up? This guy works for Adobe.
He doesn't work there anymore. Not after that.
I'm just saying. Like, they're giving me a hard time because I can't say hat in French. Meanwhile, this dude works for Adobe and he calls it Adobe. Right? But it's fine because he's French. Now, Chris, who speaks English, isn't allowed to mispronounce anything. But this guy, that's fine. He's French. We don't care. He's French. Chris, it's not a big deal because he's French and he's in Paris and there was a terrorist attack. So don't give him a hard time because he calls it Adobe. There's not a big deal. What are you talking about?
Announce that Flash Professional is being renamed to Adobe Animate CC.
Okay, now you can't unhear it, can you?
Adobe.
You see what I'm saying?
And Adobe Animate CC will be available in early 2016. We are not just changing the name, we are adding significant new features for professional animators. Let me show you what we are working on. You will be able to browse and license millions of illustrations, photos, and vector graphics. Adobe Stock is directly integrated within the tool thanks to the power of Creative Sync. Same for Creative Cloud libraries. You can access colors, vector shapes, and brushes directly within Animate CC. And use...
All right, so there you go. So this is, they're going to call it Animate. And they're going to have Animate CC for the application to use. And the idea is Adobe is going to de-emphasize FLV and that kind of stuff and sort of re-emphasize HTML5 output, but using Adobe tools to make that said HTML5 output. I don't know what to think about this. So what I thought is let's just figure out how to stop using the Flash plugin altogether. And that's Chris's solution. So you really want to kill Adobe Flash, or I'm sorry, Adobe Flash, this is how we do it. This is how we do it. And so I wanted to give my couple of tips, and then I wanted to see maybe what you do to avoid using Flash, and then we'll toss it at the mumble room. So I mentioned these on Sunday's show, but my 2 top tips to avoid using Flash, first of all, don't install it. Second of all, use Livestreamer to watch things that are in Flash. Or if you want to watch the JB live stream, grab the RTMP or RTSP and throw that to MPV.
That helps Alan get paid.
Live streamer, I don't think will do the JB live stream.
Okay.
So live streamer will do like Twitch and Ustream. Right. You could watch we do have a broadcast on Ustream at ustream.tv or whatever, ustream.com, whatever the URL is, /channel/Jupiter Broadcasting. And you could pipe that into live streamer. And you could pull that into Livestreamer and it will work, but the built-in embedded one on the jblive.tv page doesn't work with Livestreamer, but RTMP and RTSP work beautifully in MPV. Yep. So you just, on the command line you type MPV and then you paste that link and it starts streaming.
FFmpeg will record from those, or HLS beautifully as well. Right
to a file, HLS as well. And then of course, something that I use all the time is Minitube and YouTube DL, which is a great way to pull video files off of YouTube without having to use Flash. And then my go-to solution is, instead of having Flash installed system-wide, if I have to use Flash, I use Chrome. And Chrome comes with Flash built in, and I just keep it there in their little sandbox, and that's where it stays. And if a website requires Flash, like YouTube management tools, then I just use Chrome. What about you? How do you avoid using Flash when you need to?
I have to echo pretty much everything you said. I was just talking with my parents, and they were kind of freaked out. Firefox is warning them about the vulnerabilities in Flash, and they don't quite know what that means. And I found myself just saying, well, if you're having Flash problems, you should probably just use Chrome. And I haven't said that before, but that's where we're at. I think is just you just use Chrome, you use that for that page, and you're done.
Wimpy, you have a trick for getting HTML5 playback on YouTube?
Yeah, this is not so much about what you as a user can do, but what you as a content publisher can do. So if you embed YouTube clips in a website or social media and all the rest of it, if you add the HTML5 option to the embed URL, it forces the clip to use the HTML5 playback rather than Flash by default.
Oh, that is really good to know. That is great to know.
I will also.
So I went through all my sites and added that to everything after the last round of Flash vulnerabilities when nobody could access Flash for about a week.
Smart.
I added that.
That's beautiful. Some older versions of Flash or players that haven't been updated will save temporary files that if you want to watch the video but you don't want to use the Flash interface, it will download it to the temp folder, but it will delete them. But it still has that file handle open, so the proc file system will show that to you. So you can then just copy it right out of it. So you still have to have Flash installed for that. Yeah. But if you want to kind of archive clips off some websites that maybe Livestreamer doesn't work for,
that's a nice trick.
You can do it. It doesn't. Some don't work for that, but a handful do.
That's a nice way to pretty much grab anything.
I'll have to find a link for that.
Okay. Yeah.
There's actually a lot of stuff you can do with YouTube DL that are a lot more than people think they can. The name of it implies just YouTube.
Sure.
But there's about 200 different things it works with.
It's amazing, yeah.
So I don't even use Livestreamer because most of the stuff I use, YouTube DL works. So if you want to watch a Twitch.tv stream, you just use YouTube DL with MPV, or technically just use MPV, and it works.
Now, when you say technically use MPV, are you doing like, how simple is it? No, MPV, and then you put the Twitch URL in there, or what are you doing?
Yeah, it's MPV space URL.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Really?
All you need is YouTube DL installed, and then MPV detects YouTube DL and then parses it through perfectly fine, and you don't have to do anything.
Oh, snaps. I am doing that.
I want to say, I don't think it's in a lot of repos yet, and I was just asking Wimpy about this in IRC as well, but I see a release note from MPV saying that they support the hardware decoding on Raspberry Pi 2. I haven't ever tried that. I think it might be in the Arch ARM repos. Maybe Mumble Room knows more. But that would be pretty neat combination right there.
Normally when there's Pi compatibility for video playback, you can't just rebuild the source package from the Intel versions because you actually need to explicitly link it to the OMX libraries, for example.
Yeah.
So it usually requires a little bit of messing about with. I haven't looked at it yet. I was aware, but I haven't tried it. If you're talking about YouTube, there's a couple of utilities. There's also Minitube, which is a desktop client for Linux for browsing YouTube, which doesn't require Flash. And there's another one called YouTube Viewer. And YouTube Viewer is a desktop client for YouTube, and behind the scenes it pulls everything down and streams it either via MPV or MPlayer or something like that. So it's got different backends it can use to actually view YouTube on the desktop. So that's another way to dodge Flash.
Right. Good point.
Excellent.
Okay. Now, Kits and Kitty is pointing out the elephant in the room that I didn't realize until just now. But there is a large use case for Flash when it comes to porn, Kitson, and you're mentioning that there is certain workarounds for that too, right?
Yes. Apparently, I have heard that YouTube DL works great on RedTube.
I mean, I didn't actually think about it beforehand, but that's a legit. So,
is that Google's new service you're talking about?
It certainly is.
It is there is an uncomfortable truth, and that uncomfortable truth is Linux makes for a fantastic porn platform. You can quote me on that, but the reason is on Windows, you are legitimately constantly exposed to all kinds of different phishing attacks and scams and malware that gets drive-by downloaded that is really not a problem on Linux.
Horny internet browsers will click on anything, so...
And if somebody should probably, maybe there already is, should make a live CD around this premise, to be honest with you, because...
maybe it comes with a sexy background.
It is a showcase. It is a showcase desktop environment because you can get all the codecs on there, you can get Flash, and you don't have any of the vulnerabilities.
Yep.
Are you saying someone should make a porn too?
Someone should make one of those ads. This one cool trick makes your porn browsing experience better.
Yeah. You could sell some Linux on that.
BuzzFeed.
Is it just me, or am I the only person that has noticed that sex online is just as dangerous as sex in real life?
Yeah, more so, I think, actually. Yeah.
One trick for that is if you use a browser user agent changer, because a lot of porn sites want to support mobile, and they have to then a lot of times use HTML5 or mobile supported.
Interesting. So if you pretend you're like an Android device or an iPhone,
you usually get a link to some kind of MP4.
That's great for all kinds of sites.
Yeah.
I just did some. I'll get this to you so you can put it in the show notes. But I found the supported sites list from YouTube DL.
Oh yeah, it's massive. Nice. No, I linked it. I linked it in Sunday's Linux Action Show.
There's quite a few adult-oriented solutions.
I noticed that.
The only one I'm interested in is Adult Swim, of course.
Of course, right. That's the only adult site you care about. And I just, I guess if we're being completely genuinely honest, that is a legitimate use case for Flash.
Yeah.
And it is something that keeps people using it, I guess, which I hadn't considered until we started talking about this. But it's the elephant in the room, and there are solutions for that as well.
Well, I think that industry is kind of, they kind of pioneered that. They had a lot of video content to deliver, and Flash at that time was the only thing that could do it.
Your tip about mobile is a good one, though, because I've read a couple of different articles on how high what a high percentage mobile traffic is for those types of sites.
Bet, yes. You're bored on the bus. I mean, anywhere.
Wow. Okay.
Not me.
Yeah, no, that's fine. That's, no, I guess.
Zombies don't run Linux.
So there you go. There is plenty of ways Flash can be dead today if you just take action, friends. And we all of us can make a difference. You can't go vote and make a difference. Just ask Adam Ruins Everything. Good show, by the way. But you can make a difference by not running Flash. You can also make a difference by going to linuxactionshow.reddit.com and submitting stories, topic ideas, or open source projects you think we should know about. Also feedback for episode 121 over at linuxactionshow.reddit.com. We've also got a live stream. I don't know if you knew about that. Over at jblive.tv. We do the show on Tuesdays. Probably only a couple of more this year. Like 3.
Wow.
Yeah.
You better catch them. Be here live.
Yeah, we've also got that Mumble Room. We love hanging out with our Mumble Room, getting their live insights. We really mean it. It's our virtual lug, and you can take part of that and share your thoughts. Just head over to jblive.tv, go to jupiterbroadcasting.com/calendar, get it converted to your local time zone. That's jupiterbroadcasting.com/calendar. Don't forget about that contact page while you're on our website, and go check out previous episodes. We got a whole bunch. Avoid the family over the holidays. That's my personal recommendation.
Hang out, talk about Linux. It's way more fun.
There you go. All right, everybody. Thanks so much for this week's episode of Linux Unplugged. See you right back here next week. There we go. We went there, but I think I just felt like, all of a sudden we should probably be honest. This is a genuine use case for Flash. So we did it.
Yep.
We happened.
We had to go there.
So I wanted to take a couple of minutes here in the post show and just sort of invite the Mumble Room to jump in on open source projects they're thankful for, but let's do it like we're still doing it in the show so that way we don't all talk over each other. So tag me first in the chat room and with Mum, and then we'll go for there. But I wanted to I know this is probably going to come up, but there was so many projects I could have been thankful for. Wes, I realized Ting might be on your list.
Yes, it definitely is.
So I want to play with that more. I think I definitely want to play. Is there any others that are on top of your mind for your list?
That's a good question.
You think about it. I will
think about it.
All right, so Vert, you can go ahead and... sorry. Wimpy was first. Wimpy, go ahead. You have your project you're thankful for.
OpenSSH.
Good one.
Very good.
I can't imagine life without it.
Seriously?
It's so versatile.
Seriously. Yeah, it is maybe one of the most useful open source projects for all of us, like just broad spectrum. Great one. Great. Vert, do you want to mention OwnCloud?
Yeah, I mean, that's really kind of changed my entire workflow now because I never really bought into the whole Google Cloud Services stuff And so when OwnCloud came along, I started syncing calendars and appointments and everything else between me and my family. And yeah, it's just been a really great stalwart in that sort of sense. And I'm just so glad for it now.
Good point. All right, chat room, don't forget jbtitles.com. Let's pick our title. Hey, Citizen, you're sort of our resident Jack showcase. So I'm curious to hear what you're thankful for.
Well, yeah, definitely thankful for Jack, the audio connection kit that helps you, or is necessary for doing any professional audio on Linux.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's something that is probably going to be, I'm going to have to learn more about it in 2016.
Yes. Expect some JB deep dive.
I've been putting it off, but you hear Hey Citizen there, and I
have some coworkers who are playing with it. It seems like a ton of fun and
that's a
very
good
powerful.
One. Yeah, and also Lily Pond. Tell me about that.
Yeah, Lily Pond is another great app. Very thankful for it. Musical notation. It's kind of like the LaTeX of music.
Okay. Lily Pond. I will Google that. Kitson, oh my God. The most obvious one that I use for every single show. All our hosts use it, and I didn't think of it. Kitson, go ahead.
Markdown.
Yeah. Yeah. Seriously. Markdown, you know what? Here's why Markdown is great. At the end of the day, I can just be free flow, like, Mr. Creative Genius, just writing like a madman, and I don't have to worry about like links. Like, this is a big deal because I'll just put something in a bracket, and then I'll just do, open parenthesis, close parenthesis, and I'll just keep typing, and then 20 minutes later, I'll go back and get the URL. Yep. And then I can cite, so I know the references in my head, but I just don't have the URL handy, so I can keep writing and just quickly bang out stuff, format it in Markdown, and then put it out in consistent, perfect HTML every single time.
And there's tons of services that will just render that to whatever format you want.
So many. I mean, oh man, Markdown is really a good one. So
yeah,
So
I like
of Markdown. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, I like the interoperability between Markdown and all the applications that are out there for it. And that's actually what switched me over from using org mode, because with org mode it was just Emacs.
Oh man, Rotten Corpse, you have VirtualBox. That's a good one. Tatsutsu Kushi, I think that's how you say it. Encryption software. That's a good one.
So yeah, I think we should all thank the people who write encryption software that makes it possible for us to communicate safely and
big picture.
Like
it's a big deal.
And and also the people who come up with the ciphers and other like cryptographic primitives and make them public domain and
and share with everybody.
And
that's a great point. I'll give. We should probably wrap up with these because this list could go on all day. But I got to give the last one to Popey because FFmpeg is close to my heart.
Yeah, I chose FFmpeg, but really I want to thank Fabrice Bellard, the guy who started FFmpeg, and also QEMU. Because both of them are just amazing pieces of software, and they've got loads of contributions, but from one guy to start those two projects, the guy's a genius.
Yeah, I agree. That's a good one. All right, so I'm gonna finish. I'm trying to finish this beer. So if anybody else drinking with me today, well, Wes is. Anybody else have a beer? Got to finish this.
I think tea. Does that count?
I too am drinking tea.
I'm drinking bulletproof coffee.
Okay, all right. We got a bulletproof coffee drinker in there. So now all of a sudden, Chris isn't the only crazy guy.
We'll take that.
Now I'm not crazy. Coffee. Are you putting MCT oil in that thing? What do you got going on over there?
I just got the coconut oil.
Yeah, sure, yeah. Okay, but see, here's the thing. You can get MCT oil, which is an extract down of coconut oil, which doesn't have any coconut flavor. You still get all the benefits of coconut oil without the coconut flavor. So if you don't want to coconut up your coffee, you putting butter in there?
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit of butter. Yeah. That is. And are you doing are you doing that for breakfast? Are you doing like a fasting thing? What's going on over there?
No, I just I use it to keep me going.
It does, doesn't it?
For a long time before having to have lunch.
Yeah. Not only does it help you keep going in between meals, but also, sometimes, at least for me, when the caffeine wears off, especially coffee, because it's like 120 milligrams of caffeine, I go into like starvation mode where I gotta eat, and I don't care what it takes or what it is or how long it's been in there. I gotta eat.
Isn't that weird?
Yeah.
Do you get like that sensation where your body just like really needs food?
Yeah, and when you do
I don't even know how to describe it. It's really weird.
And
like
when you do the bulletproof coffee, you do not get that. It is a more gradual ramp down. Yeah.
Why does this sound like a recipe for diarrhea?
Well, if caffeine makes you poo, if coffee makes you poo, then it will happen. Yeah.
Gotta love the coffee poo.
But I'm telling you what, though, I don't do the official like bulletproof coffee. I just go get really good coffee and an immersion blender, and I put MCT coconut oil in there and a little bit of butter, and you know, I haven't done it in a while, but when it's cold out, you know, and you could also like if you don't care about if you're not doing it for health reasons, you could put a little chocolate syrup in there too. Now, don't do that, but you could put a little chocolate syrup in there too. Or a little cocoa powder, or a little liqueur. Yeah. A little liqueur.
Actually, they say I've heard that chocolate is actually really good for you.
Well, there you go.
A lot of antioxidants.
Shit, that's health food then. That's basically health food.
Done.
Chocolate syrup, maybe not so much.
No.
No. Cocoa powder.
High fructose corn syrup.
Ruin this for us.
High fructose corn syrup is the number one ingredient, I think, in that. Sweet Lou says coffee does make you crap. You know, when I went to System 76, part of their cyborg versus robot versus human lie detector test asked you if coffee makes you poop. So I think that was one of the things that made me more cyborg, less robot, because I do poop.
Noted.